feel like we're in a really good place. We being Straight Talk for a Curvy World, the women and the men that I've been talking with to come on as guests and share their stories with all of us. So now is the right time. But I do want to tell you a little bit about what I've been doing while we've been apart from one another. I have been keeping extremely busy. As all of you that have been listening know, I had been working on my book. And I think the last time we talked about my book here, it had a completely different title than it ended up with. I was in the final stages of editing, which turned into many, many more months of editing. And I am thrilled to tell you that the book is done. It has a new title, and the new title is Smiling on the Outside: Secrets, Sex, Shame, and the Search for Self-Love. And when I say it's done, I mean, ladies and gentlemen, the book is done. I have it printed. It will be released on June 6th. So between now and then, we'll spend some time talking more about it. But that's not what I want to talk about today. I want to also let you know I've been busy studying, and I think I may have mentioned this before, pursuing a really sex-positive career and taking all of the sexual shame that I have lived with and turning it around into something that helps many who live with sexual shame. And on the heels of that little comment, I do have to share something really exciting that happened in our time apart, and that is that I have been accepted into the doctorate program in human sexuality. So I'm looking at starting that this summer. So very exciting. On top of that, really, that's pretty much what's been keeping me busy. So we're in spring here in Minnesota, and I'm so excited to share the guest that I have with us today. I will tell you, I feel energized about the break that I had. I'm rested. And this new season that we have coming here at Straight Talk for a Curvy World is really powerful. I talk about this in the book. I've talked about it briefly on our podcast before, but I believe in the power of Me Too. And what I mean by that is we focus here at Straight Talk for a Curvy World on reminding you that you're not alone. You're not the only one, and you're not crazy either, no matter what anybody says and no matter what you've gone through in the past. And with that in mind, I'm on a mission to remind other women, those women that maybe sit next to you in the coffee shop, or if you ride the bus to work, maybe they sit next to you there. The women you see walking their dogs when you're out walking yours. Those women that are carrying secrets and holding that shame inside because they're afraid if they talk about it, whatever it might be, that they're going to be judged, that they're going to lose friends, that they're going to be looked at differently. So I talk about all of those things in my book so that I can give you and other women permission to talk about it. Because when we hear the words "Me Too," things get a little easier. We know we're no longer alone. We know we're not crazy, and we know we are not the only one. So I encourage you to keep that in mind, because our next guest here at Straight Talk for a Curvy World, her name's Elaine. And she has some Me Too moments that I know you'll be able to relate to. Elaine, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
It's wonderful to have you here. Before we get started, I do want to share a quote that I found. And for those listening, crazy as it sounds, this quote came from a Timothy Ferriss book called Tools of Titans, which is a monster of a book. And I'm going to only read one small line out of this book. But if you get a chance, pick the book up because there's a lot of great information in it. But the quote that I found in here is in the chapter that he writes where he has spoken with Brené Brown. And here's what he says. A person's success in life can usually be measured by the number of uncomfortable conversations he or she is willing to have. And what I love about that is that's exactly what we do here at Straight Talk for a Curvy World. We have the uncomfortable conversations. We have the discussions about the messy stuff. And Elaine, that's what we're going to do here today.
Awesome.
And for our listeners, Elaine, or you don't know this because if you haven't met Elaine, her last name's Elaine Turso. She's a boudoir photographer. She lives in the Seattle area. So if you are in that area, be sure and check the show notes because we'll have a link to her website and you too can look into getting a boudoir photography session. So she has a lot of great things to talk to us about today. She doesn't know where the conversation is going, and at this moment in time, I don't either. That's where the fun is. I think the first thing, though, that I do want to talk about is what you shared with me. First of all, you said you're an open book, which is fabulous because our listeners really appreciate those kinds of guests who can share things without being afraid, because many of our listeners